Hello and welcome back to Lessons from the Middle podcast. Today we are kicking off a 3-part series all around a topic that I am very passionate about, which is technology. We can't talk about mental health without talking about technology because it is so impactful, not only on our kids, but also on us. And I feel like this is the perfect time to have this series because the holidays are coming up and you might be thinking about gifting some technology, or you're just about to be on break where technology is probably going to be used a little bit more. And so I want to help you with making sure that you are feeling confident and good in no matter which direction you are moving forward. So I want to preface this with this series is going to be filled with lots of tips and strategies and also a ton of things based on my own experience. But there is no judgment on what you have decided to implement with your family. I am just hoping that you walk away feeling more empowered about how to use technology and feeling really confident that you are supporting yourself and your family in their mental health when it comes to tech. So I feel that I've had a very interesting experience when it comes to technology because when I first started working in the middle school, there was no one-to-one technology. We still had carts that we were bringing into the classrooms. Kids didn't really have cell phones. And then I watched slowly as iPhones and Instagram started getting into their hands. And then group chats and Snapchat and TikTok, we used to have laptops, and then we switched to iPads. And I have strong opinions about technology and the impact that they have on our kids from seeing this play out every single day. The conversations I was having with kids, the conversations I was having with teachers and parents, and it became essentially my full-time job, was talking to kids about technology in some capacity every single day, whether it was something that was impacting them, even just how to use it in their classroom. I was putting kids on plans of navigating technology because it was so overwhelming. So I've seen the impact each and every day that technology has on our kids' mental health. And so I'm really excited for this conversation because, again, I'm hoping it will just provide some clarity on your next steps and even maybe shift some of the processes you have currently in your home. These are all going to be very realistic tips and strategies, things that you can end the podcast episode and go do. And again, this is not judgment. This is just information based on my experience working with middle schoolers. So the areas that we are going to be focusing on for this 3-part series are family tech tips. So things that you can do and just things that you can keep an eye on in your home, just being mindful of about how your kids are using tech. Tech boundaries will be the second episode. And these will be boundaries for kids from ages 3 to 14. And then the last episode will be about impact that gender can have on tech use and mental health. One of the first things I want us to think about is the importance of not letting screens influence our kids more than family. We really have a small amount of time, and I don't say this to be scary, but a small amount of time with our kids before they start looking for the outside world to think about values and how they want to show up and how they want to be. This usually starts around like 7th grade when our kids start to kind of push us aside as parents in some ways and look to friends or social media or other things to be influenced on how they want to show up. So really, we're talking about 11 or 12 years that we have where we can be the main influence on our kids. But if we do introduce things like social media earlier into our kids' lives, then we lose a little bit of that influence because now they're getting flooded with information each day. So I like to think about it as trying to kind of control that family unit or make that unit smaller for our kids as they are developing that strong sense of self, because the messages that you are going to be giving your kids as a parent is very different than the messages they're picking up from YouTube or Instagram or Snapchat. So really thinking about that as who do you want to be influencing your kids? And let's let our family influence our kids more than screens. So how can we do this? In this episode, I'm going to share my top 6 family tips that you can, again, go implement as early as today. And I'd be curious, after you listen, please let me know which one you feel was the most impactful. The first one is going to be that the size of the screen matters. The smaller the screen, the bigger the concern. And what I mean by that is TV, I'm not really concerned about. And the reason for this is we have a lot of research on this as well. But, a TV kind of allows everyone to have a shared experience. Kids are able to watch the show, but also able to play or do something else. And parents can see and hear what is being watched. And it's much more transparent. So we can overhear the conversations. We can see how they are interacting with what's going on the TV. So we can be a lot more involved. And again, I see this with my kids a lot where we'll have a show on and they'll get up and start kicking a soccer ball or, start talking or drawing or doing something. So it's not locking them in as much as some of these smaller screens. When we get to a smaller screen, so an iPad or a phone, it really is more concerning because if you watch kids with iPads and phones, but they are so locked in. And they're designed to do that. They're designed to keep you on them. There's something that is continuing to keep them engaged. The next video will pop up or there will be a game that they are continuing to play. It's also more private and a more solo experience. So now we have that loss of connection. We can't all talk about the story that just happened or ask about what do you think that character felt in that moment, right? This is a more private experience. And they're also able to watch or see more things that are not age appropriate. They're not as able to be distracted and kind of do other activities. So if we are having our kids use iPads and phones, the other thing that we want to think about this next strategy is we want to think about the 3 C's because there are different ways that our kids can interact with the technology. So the 3 C's are connect, consume, and create. And when our kids can use an iPad or use a phone to connect, so FaceTime or call somebody in the family or create. Maybe they're watching a video that's telling them how to make a cake or how to draw a certain character and they're creating that using their hands and doing something. That's different, right? That is engaging them in a different way than when we just think about consume. So that scrolling, the mindless scroll that I have been very guilty of on Instagram. So if we think about, again, okay, my kid has this iPad or whatever it is, they seem good with it, then let's at least just look at how are they using it? Because we really want them to be more in that connecting and creating zone than the consume zone. Another thing we want to talk about is the importance of transparency. We really use our devices for everything as parents. It's so important because we don't have that transparency that we used to have growing up, that we have to share and narrate with our kids what we're doing and how we're using technology. Because if we think about growing up, if my parents needed a recipe or wanted to call somebody or needed directions, I could physically see what they were doing. They had to open up a book or open up a magazine. Everything happened off of a screen. And so I knew exactly what they were doing. But now with phones, it just looks so secretive no matter what we're doing because we can't see it. And so it's really important that we are showing our kids and telling them how we are using technology, because the research has also come out that parent tech use is a strong predictor for adolescent tech use. How we are using our tech is how our kids are going to use tech. So we want to make sure that we are modeling for them how to use it appropriately. Just thinking about a few questions here. In what ways do you enjoy technology that you would like for your kids to experience? Again, tech isn't all bad. There are very real parameters we can put in place to be successful, but how do you enjoy technology that you would like for your kids to experience? How could you change your habits to model healthier screen use? I know for me, I just started putting back, I took it off and I now put it back, the amount of time that I can be on social media a day. And so I made it an hour because I could not stand on Sundays when I would see that screen time use pop up. And I was just mortified at how much I was on social media. So I put it down to an hour. And now I put my phone up on the charger when I get home with my kids after the school day. And I just try to not engage, right? I'm trying to have that healthier screen use? And then would you be okay if your child used screens as much or in the way that you do? Another thing that we want to talk about, and this is, if you're keeping track, this is actually number 5 for the strategies. And this is routines and rituals. Why are routines and rituals around technology so beneficial? And the reason is that our kids really thrive on routines and predictability and structure. So if you want to end the screen time battles, routines are one of the best ways to do this. And this is because our kids will know what to expect. So ask yourself, how much screen time are you comfortable with during the week? How much are you comfortable with during the weekend? Have you communicated and consistently followed these routines? So I've shared this before, but the routine that really works for us is that we do not do any screens Monday to Friday night. So Friday night, we do a family movie night with pizza, and that's the first time the kids get to like watch a show. Now, there are times during the week that maybe there was a soccer game that was on and they want to watch like 5 minutes of the soccer game with my husband and they'll sit and watch together. And so they might do that with a live sporting thing. So this isn't like all or nothing all the time, but we really do strive to not have them watch any screens during the school week. And that is because it's definitely harder to get them to sleep when they have watched screens. And what I saw with, especially my big reactor, is that screens were really dysregulating for him, as I've also seen very much in the school setting. And so giving them a break from those screens can be super helpful. And so then on the weekends, we are very relaxed about how much they want to watch. We try to build in activities where we're getting them out and moving. But if they want to sit and watch some shows, then they get to sit and watch shows on Saturdays and Sundays. The other thing are these rituals. So rituals are things that you do either weekly or monthly, but this is actually a big buffer against mental health concerns down the road. So I shared Friday night movie night. This is a ritual in our family that we do every single week. Some families do like Tech-Free Tuesday where they do game night. And so what are those things that you do each week or each month as a family that really help everybody come together to connect? And again, they buffer against mental health concerns. So why not? And the last piece here is so tip number 6, are times for connection. So when we think about connecting with our kids, the times that they want to connect with us usually are not convenient, right? Like it's the end of the day. It's, when we've just come home from work and we need a minute. I shared a while ago about an experience where I watched a high school student and a mom sitting together at breakfast, and the mom was on her cell phone the entire time, like didn't even look up to look at her daughter. And her daughter tried, like she was asking questions to her mom. She was like, "Do you want some water?" I mean, she was sitting there trying not to be on her phone. And then eventually she just got on her phone, and then they both sat on their phones for the whole time. And so those were missed bids for connection. We really want to be mindful of our tech use, that we aren't missing out on quality connection with our kids. Because again, when our kids are younger, they will demand our attention and connection. Like they will say, "Get off your phone," or they might start acting out because they want you to give them attention. But then as our kids get older, we have to be a lot more strategic about connecting with them. We have to be in their traffic pattern. So even just like being in the kitchen, knowing that they're coming in for a snack and just being ready to talk to them, taking what we can get, but we want to be in their traffic pattern. And if we are on our phone or emailing or whatever, we can miss those times for connection. And that's what it's all about, right? Is connecting with our kids. Those were very quick 6 strategies, but if you implement even one of these, I think you will see a bunch of change. And maybe you're already doing several of these, and this was just a great refresher. So just as a recap, those 6 strategies that we talked about for the family tech tips were size of the screen matters, the 3 C's, transparency, modeling, routines and rituals, and times for connection. Just want you to think about which strategies are you already doing and which strategies would you like to add to your daily life. I hope there was a few things for you to consider and think about as we move forward into next week, when we will talk all about boundaries and the impacts that screens can have on our kids. I look forward to talking with you more about tech soon.